G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Wednesday, the 1st of September 2021, and the time here is 09:35 Australian Eastern Standard Time. All right, folks, I've got a lot to go through. It's going to be a little bit of a left field bend for us on this video, so let's go to it. Sponsor first. Here is my sponsor, Totally Rawsome, who make golden activated turmeric paste, amongst other things. Now, here's a sample of what they make. Happy Healing Silica, turmeric for your dogs, etc., etc. Now, these are great, these new ones here. I gave them to my dogs. They absolutely loved them. Can't speak highly enough of them. Want to contact the guys, info@totallyrawsome.com.au, and if you want to go and speak to them, look on the left hand side here. I'm not going to read them all out. That's where they are Sunday, Saturday and Thursdays. Okay, Totally Rawsome, excellent stuff, guys. Honestly, it's the best thing for your joints and stuff, bar none. Okay, now this video is for all the people who think standing on picket lines, etc., is the best thing to do, or to send letters to your politicians, etc. It's not. All it's going to do is piss people off and get you absolutely nowhere. Because you see, you're fighting against the system. You remember the script? You're fighting against the script, and in the script, it's got exactly what you're doing and how to get over that on their side. Now, unless you know how to turn the media to go for you, then you're wasting your time. Because there was a, what's the name down at the Tweed yesterday, another protest, and if you watch the media thing on it, they just absolutely slated the people. So you can't win. That's my point. You might think you're going to win, but you're not. Now, on Sunday, there was another protest down there, and as I said, one of the policemen got punched. And honestly, you'd swear they beat him to death with a bat. And you obviously can't say that I didn't tell you that that was going to happen. So, what have I got to do, or what have I got to show you that can change the situation here, not only in Australia, but also in America? Okay, art of war. The art of war. How do you use your opponent to better your own position? So, just say, for example, if you attack an opponent and they've got guns and you've got sticks, and you, I don't know, somehow managed to kill 5 of them, are you going to keep attacking them with sticks, or are you going to pick up their guns and start shooting them with their own guns? That might sound like a little bit of a surprise question, but in the heat of battle, when people are, yeah, that's not that easy to do because you're enraged, you're on hyperbole. I can guarantee you, for all those 5 people that got killed and those guys that hit them with the sticks, knocked them down and killed them, there would probably only be one of those guys that would take the time to pick up the gun and shoot people. The guys standing behind the guys that actually knocked the guys down and killed them with the sticks would probably pick up the guns because they're not as enraged as the guys who have got the stick. Now, I'm telling you that out of combat nous, because when I trained and when we did train, right, thankfully, one of the things we were taught, because we used to fight full contact. This was in the late 80s, early 90s. So we used to bash the shit out of each other, literally. But one of the things we were taught was in the middle of that, even if we were the advancing person, was to step back, take a look, especially to see what was going on. And that saved my bacon a lot of times. In the fog of war, when everything's just going on around you, the snap, this is a true story. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a true story. In London, I got into a fight with four guys, four coppers at the pub. And I was in, these were big Welsh coppers as well. And I was in pretty bad shape. They were going to kick me to the ground and, beat the crap out of me. But one of them got me in a bear hug, or, headlock, and was sort of going like this with me. At that moment, I started laughing. And you might think, and there was other people there, right, that were working with me, because it kicked off pretty big. There was a big group of these guys, and I started laughing. And everyone later was like, "What were you laughing about?" And I said, "Because right at that moment, I was laughing because that guy was in a lot of trouble. Because right at that moment, in the fog of war, clarity came for me. What did I do? I was like that, and I just hit him straight in the knackers. He dropped like a rock. And then I cleaned up a couple of other people. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't been trained to do that. Does that make sense? I hope you understand it, because this is really important, right? And, fog of war, take the time to slow down, look at your opponent, and then move on. Overcome your opponent and move on. Okay, you hear about all these stories in wars and, acts of valor where the guy just went, nah. He looked around him and he just went, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm going the opposite way and I'm going to do what I've got to do. And people were like, what are you doing? Okay, so how do you use, I'm talking in regards to coronavirus vaccines here, okay? If you don't want to take the vaccine, but you're being told by your boss you have to take the vaccine, how do you turn that around so you go, okay, mate, no problem. I've got no problem at all taking the vaccine. But here's what you're going to do for me, right? So I'm going to show you now how to do that. Right, so this is going to take a while, so you have to get your head around it. In Australia, under the Westminster system of Parliament, which operates in obviously the UK and any Commonwealth country, unless it's run by a dictatorship, but they still run loosely the Westminster system. The US has the Westminster system, believe it or not, although it's slightly different, but the same process. Australia has the Westminster system modelled on the American system. I don't know how that worked out. And we kind of have the Senate, and different to the English one where they have the House of Lords, blah blah blah. So all very similar, but slightly different parameters. Yeah. Now, what happens is, what's the role of the federal government? Well, you've got the states, same as America. Kind of, you have the same thing in the UK now with the devolution of the Wales, Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, etc., etc. So they're basically states of of the UK. Does that make sense? Hope so. Right. So what role does the federal government do in this sort of stuff? So that the states don't run away and do just crazy outlandish things. Well, what the federal government does is they enact laws. It's part of their role, apart from taking taxes, this stuff. Hang on a sec. Have a drink of water. And the federal government enacts laws that the states have to abide by, because in each state there might be federal territory that is owned by the federal government that the state government has to work with or through, etc., etc. Or there might be federal employees that are working in the state government that have to be covered by the federal government, etc., etc. Right? This is true. You can't make this shit up. So here's what happens in Australia, America, and England. Now, you guys don't know this, but I've got a master's degree in construction management. So I used to work at a high level of thing where management, believe it or not, where I used to have control of lots of people, right? Now, the boring part of that is you have to make sure that everyone comes to work and works in a healthy and safe environment and is not subjected to, anything that's going to harm their health and safety. That's just one of the things you have to do. It's the number one thing that you have to do. Okay, believe it or not, you spend hours and hours and hours on it. And look, it's kind of made the industry better, especially in construction. It's made the industry a lot better. Now, and it's the same in America. It's the same in Australia. Same around the world. Pretty well. So, but what do I work to? That's the thing. So if I'm in New South Wales, what law am I working to? Well, here's the thing. So the federal government does what's called legislation, and it's passed through Parliament. So they'll make up this law. Someone will start drafting this thing about it, and this is all done with the state governments, because there's no point passing a law that state governments are not going to ratify. Okay, but sometimes the federal government goes, you are going to do that, and this is one of those things. So health and safety law is a federal government thing, but in each state it's also run by the state governments, because that's what they do. We're in Queensland, so we've got our own state law, blah, blah, blah. It's bullshit, because the federal government, the federal health and safety law is the number one law. Fact. Even if, whichever state you're in. Okay. The reason for that is because I might leave Queensland, go and work in New South Wales, Northern Territory, wherever, and I need to be covered by work, health and safety laws. And although there's a small variance in each state or territory, they're all the same. They're all run by the federal government. Okay. So my employer says to me, if I'm running a site in Queensland or whatever, and we say to our employees, you have to have the jab. They turn around and they go, sweet. Show me the federal government health and safety law that covers this. If they're clever. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying here? Please show me the health and safety law that's in the Act. Sorry, I skipped that bit. Let me go back a section. So the federal parliament will pass legislation. Then what happens is, working with the states, it gets passed as an act. Now, once it gets passed as an act, it is law. They obviously give you this big book. It's about this bloody thick. Where's the camera? It's about that thick. And each state and territory has to abide by the Act, the Health and Safety at Work Act, or the Health and Safety, Occupational Health and Safety Law, whatever it is they call it, okay? So, as I said, I've said to my employees or people working on our site, you have to have the jab. And this is the same regardless of whether it's a big company, a small company, a one-person company. This might sound funny, but a one-person company can actually do this to themselves if they really, really want to. Now, when that employee says to me, great, here's what I want you to do for me. I want you to show me the act that says I have to do this. And two, I want you to give me the MSDS sheets. What's an MSDS sheet, you say? Well, let's call it SDS sheet. It's a safety data sheet. MSDS sheet, material safety data sheet. Now, I'm gonna go through this now on the computer, so I won't be back on the screen for a while, okay? It's probably a good thing. So I'm going to read this out to you. What is Federal Occupational Safety and Health Act? This is an American one, sorry, but it doesn't really matter. They're all the same. This is the Australian one. The Work Health and Safety Act 2011, Queensland, sets out requirement standards for building health and safety workplaces. It outlines what you must do to protect the health and safety and welfare of workers and other people in a place of work. Now this is important. It also puts legal obligations or duties on you and your workers. Sorry, I'll cut it. Right. Do you understand that? So, as far as I remember, and what I was told was there's only three real enactment laws. There's more, but really strong enactment laws in Australia. And they are around health and safety, automobiles, believe it or not, cars. What was the other one? I can't remember now, but look, basically, there's no wriggle room in them. None. Like that's it. It's not like you can go to court and they go, okay, well, there's no way out of it. None. Okay, so let's go on. And it's the same in America. This is the American one. Okay, that's the American one. They're all the same. Okay. Now, and I've gone through legislation, the process of making or enacting laws. An act is legislation passed by the Parliament. Acts can only be amended by another act of Parliament. Acts set out the broad legal policy principles. Generally, it is the legal statement of law that you want. Then it is the act that is required. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that make sense? Sorry about that. I had to change the light. The light was going. Okay, so does that make sense? Everyone understands that? Okay, now let's go to this bit. Now, here is where it gets really cut and dried. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff, right? Poly ultra nails, right? Let's use that as an example. And Dove, which is my daughter's deodorant, because under the Workplace Health and Safety Act, every single thing you use, especially in construction, right, has to have an MSDS sheet. Has to have, because how are you supposed to know what's in it and what you're using if you cannot ratify that it's safe for your workers and for you? Does that make sense? Right, so here we go. Poly ultra nails safety data sheet. And there you go. There you go. Here we go. Dove, material safety data sheet. Dove anti-perspirant aerosol. Okay, so you're getting the principle here. So basically, everything you touch in the world, from supplied to you from around the world, wherever, must have by law an MSDS sheet. The reason for that is so that you know what is in it, and you can find out if you're allergic to it, for example. Whether you have to wear gloves, mask, face shield, full body protection, etc., etc. So, for all you truckies out there, and for all you people that are working in small businesses or big businesses or whatever, here's if you don't want to take the vaccine, and I'm not anti-vax, if you want to take it, you take it. I don't give a shit. 2 of my family members have taken it, even though I said not to. But they're adults. You're an adult, you make up your own mind. It's your body. So please don't think I'm anti-vax. What I'm actually doing here is trying to give you an option if you don't want to get the vax, but your boss is saying you have to take the vax. Now, and this is really, really important, okay, because it's slipping under the radar a bit. And a lot of these other places, these other shows are going about bullshit, which they don't know what they're talking about, to be honest with you. Right. You might have seen Anastasia Palaszczuk and all these, not the Prime Minister, all the state premiers and territory people saying, oh, it's been mandated, we've mandated that it must be done. All people working in health, in the hospitals, we've mandated that they have to have the jab. That's bullshit. They can say whatever they friggin' want to say. They can all hold their hands up in Parliament and say, yeah, everyone has to have the jab, but it's not a law. And it's definitely not an act. Do you understand? It's not, until it's been ratified and changed under the act by legislation and then is passed as an act by the federal government under health and safety law, then it's bullshit. They can say and do whatever they want to say to you. It's been mandated by the Queensland Parliament. Great. Show me the act. That's all you've got to say. Show me the act in Parliament, the legislation and the act where you passed it as a law, as part of the Health and Safety Act. Honestly, they would run 10 miles, which is where I'm going to right now. So if you're a trucker or you're working in a small business, your employer says to you, you've got to take the jab or you're out of a job. Then you go, okay, fine. Here's what you're going to do for me. You're going to do two things for me. One, you're going to give me the health and safety data sheet or the MSDS sheets for the Pfizer vaccine, Johnson & Johnson, whichever one you choose. I don't give a shit. And two, you're going to write to me and tell me that. And then this is what you're going to do. You need to sit down and you need to write to your employer and say exactly what I just said. There is no health and safety law, act, under the act. There is no health and safety law under the current act that says that I have to take the vaccine. And then two, and this is really, really important. In Australia, and it's the same in America, all of these clever clogs governments decided, well, how do we get people to make sure, how do we know that people are sticking to the health and safety laws and protecting people? Oh, I know. Let's get these little Nazis to run around called WorkSafe and a couple other people to make sure that people are doing the right thing, and let's fine them if they're not. So we can get revenue and money from these people if they're not doing it. I don't know what they're called in, I think they're called OSHA in America. Here they're called WorkSafe. So let me go through that with you. This is WorkSafe Queensland. I'm looking for, if an injury occurs, not an incident, notify of an incident. Right. Now, here's what I know. If I'm an employer, and if I'm on site, the number one thing that I used to shit myself about was getting a visit from WorkSafe. And oh God, I can't remember what they were called in England. If they came to site, it was a big problem. Okay, so here's what you're going to do if your boss asks you to do this. Now, this is not mucking around, by the way. This is actually now getting to the serious bit. Because if you're prepared to do this, then you need to understand that your boss ain't going to be happy about it. But if you really want to protect your rights, then this is what you have to do. Use the system, art of war. So then you're going to ring up WorkSafe. Or you're going to go online like I said to you then. And you're going to explain to them what's happened, right? It would probably be better to write to them on an email, okay? So you've got proof that you sent them an email. And you're going to say to them, my boss is demanding that I take the vaccine, but under the current health and safety laws, it's not legal for me to do so. There's no legal parameters for him to make me take the vaccine. And there's no legal parameters for anyone to make me take the vaccine if I don't want to take it. Now, then what happens? WorkSafe has to give you a case number. That's the law. So if you ring them, you want to make it official, by the way. Don't just ring them and just go, that's not going to do anything. Say to them at the very beginning, I want you to raise a case number. This is official. You need to make sure you say it at the beginning of your email or on the phone, whatever you want to do. This is an official complaint. Official. Because if you just ring up and start belly aching down the phone, you're just going to put the phone down, you're not going to do anything. When you put the phone down or whenever you get the email back or whatever you do, you want to make sure that you've got a case number. And there's a second reason for that. If you go back to your boss and you go, there you go, mate. ask WorkSafe to get involved, blah, 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 blah. He's going to say, get the hell off my job. Probably. He might not, but then he's not going to think of you very highly. If you know the guy, first off, on a personal level, I would actually say this to him first. Say, hey, listen, mate, I hear what you're saying, but I ain't copping it. It's not a law. I don't have to do it. See you later. I'm going to go and speak to WorkSafe. And they will shit themselves. They will literally shit themselves because they're that scared about WorkSafe coming on site. So do you understand that? All you truckies out there who are now saying, oh, I had to have the jab. You didn't have to have the jab, and you don't have to have the jab if you don't want to get the jab. It's not legal. If Anastasia Palaszczuk wants to tell you that you can't come across the Queensland border because you haven't been vaccinated, that's not your problem. That's your boss's problem. Do you understand? The way you make it your boss's problem is you walk into his office with the paperwork and you go, yeah, listen, that ain't happening, mate. Here's my paperwork. I've spoken to WorkSafe. They're coming to see everybody. I've raised it as a case. Worst case scenario, your boss is going to say, well, you better go home and wait until this has all been sorted out. And by the way, you get paid. Official. If he wants to send you home, right, because you have to make sure you say, I'm happy to keep working. Make sure you write that on your paperwork. I'm happy to keep working as I am. I'm a diligent employee, blah, 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 blah. So if you want to send me home, don't mention saying you're sending me home. So if they want to send you home, don't leave there until they have actually made sure that you're going to get paid. Fact. I know all this because I used to do all this. The other reason, if you give them the paperwork, if this ever goes to court, which I'm guessing it's going to, a lot of them, right? In court, well, there's the paperwork he gave them on the day that they sent him home, saying he's a diligent employee, blah, 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 blah. Guys, you got them tied in knots and you don't even know it. And you're tying them in knots with their own stuff. The art of war. You don't have to go sending people friggin' stupid letters to Parliament. You don't have to go down the border and stand there and protest about the fact that you can't get across the border. You don't have to do any of that. You can actually bring this crashing down around their heads with their own paperwork. That's why I was pissed off the other day with people, writing back to me saying, oh, you're not doing anything. I don't have to do anything. I told you, it's the art of war. Use the art of war. The art of war. Use their things against them. Know your opponent. Stopping trucks on the M1 ain't going to do anything to just jack people off. And all you're going to do is lose your job because you didn't put the paperwork in like I told you. Who's stupid? The guy parking his truck down the M1 or the guy that's still at work sitting in the crib shut or sitting at home because he's getting paid because he's actually put the right paperwork in and WorkSafe's now involved. And one final thing about the kids with this vaccine, if you're going to go down that route, you can't give kids a vaccine from school because the Act only covers everyone above the age of 16 or 18, I think it is. I think it's 18. It's 18 years of age you have to be before you can work on a building site legally, or you can work in an industry where you're covered under the Act. So all these kids that are getting the vaccine, you don't have to do that. They don't have to do that. I hope that all makes sense, and I hope you share this video with everybody, please, because I can't listen to this crap anymore about going to protests, and it's just dumb. It really is. It's not going to do anything. You're not going to solve anything. The only way you're going to solve something is by actually sitting down. You know how long this takes? 20 minutes. Not even that. 20 minutes. Do you know how much shit will hit the fan if even 100 people in each state did this? You would literally bring the system crashing down. 100 people in each state, because WorkSafe has to get involved. They have to get involved. There's no legislation, no act of parliament that says an employee has to force an employee to get a vaccine. None. And there's no MSDS sheets. Go and find them. They have to give them to you. If you ask for them, they have to give them to you. Make sure you write that in the paperwork. I want the MSDS sheets for the vaccine that you want me to take. It's their own paperwork. Let's do the prayers. Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice. As always, folks, we'll finish with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Okay, folks, I've got to go. The batteries are run out on the lights, so I'll leave it there. I hope that all makes sense. Please share it with everybody. One thing. Banana, organic banana. This is my third crop of bananas. It works. Head down, bum up. God bless. Prep out.